Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to share some tips on how to get your baby to sleep through the night. And since this is my first video, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Alyssa, I'm 24 years old. I have an amazing husband named Jeff. We've been together 4.5 years. And we have a beautiful baby boy named Jayden. He is a year and 3 months old. So without getting further into this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and that notification bell. And without further ado, let's get started. Once your baby is at the right age to where you don't have to wake up and feed every 2 hours, you can begin to start sleep training. So a lot of people do look at me weird when I say that I did sleep train my baby. They're like, sleep training your baby, what the heck does that even mean, and why are you doing that to your baby? But it's actually, it helps them learn sleeping patterns as well. So my first tip would be to establish a routine and stick to the routine, because it really does help. It's my main tip, honestly. And don't forget, I wouldn't start sleep training your baby until after they're 3 months old, because it's going to be really difficult to try to sleep train a newborn, almost impossible. But I mean, if you can do it, hats off to you and congratulations, because a lot of moms that I've talked to, yeah, it's just not happening. But yeah, I established a routine that fits for you and your family, and just stick with it. And I understand we're human, we go out, and you know, there's times where we can't always stick to the routine, but I would recommend sticking to it as close as you possibly can, because it really does help. And I still, to this day, my son's a year and 3 months old, I stick to my routine all the time, and even when we go out. But that's just me, and like I said, people are human, and there's gonna be times where you really just can't stick to your routine, and that's okay. But just stick to it for the most part, and your baby will understand. We'll start to understand, like, hey, this is what's gonna go on next, or I know what to expect now, because you know, you're sticking to the routine. And like I said, stick to a routine that works for you and your family. So an example for a routine for my son right now, he's a year and 3 months old. So when he wakes up, we bring him in bed with us, and I turn on cartoons, and he just watches cartoons for about an hour, and it just gives me and my husband time to just snuggle with him, not fall back to sleep, but just kind of close my eyes and kind of wake myself up a little bit before the day gets started. So then after that, I take him downstairs and I give him a bottle, and then after that he watches cartoons for a little bit, we play together, and 10:30 I give him his breakfast, and then he goes straight down for a nap after that. And when he wakes up from his nap, give him a little bit more, like, see if he wants a little more snacks, and then we have we have playtime. I'll take him to the park, take him to trampoline park, just take him somewhere, and then after that I'll give him lunch, and around 4 o'clock it'll be his next nap time. After that, he'll wake up, and I'll give him another little snack, and we'll have more playtime, just do whatever. And then I usually give him dinner at 7 and give him a bath at about 7:30, 7:45. And then after that, we lay down on the bed, I give him his bottle, and while he's watching cartoons, and then I bring him in his crib and I lay him down when he's awake, and he falls asleep on his own. That took me a while to get to that point, because I was breastfeeding him, and so whenever I breastfed him right before bed, he would fall asleep on my breast. So when I would go to lay him down, it would be kind of difficult, because he was like, hey, I was with you, now you're laying me down, and he would wake up. So it did take me a while. That's just an example of my routine that works for me right now. My second tip would be to make sure they eat enough during the day, because a hungry baby going down for sleep is going to wake up in the middle of the night because they're hungry. So throughout the day, whatever you feed your baby throughout the day, if you're breastfeeding, formula feeding, giving baby food in between, I would just recommend to give him a good amount, and just enough to where he's full before bed. My other tip would be to make sure that your baby is getting enough nap time, enough sleep for naps, and don't skip a nap time, because it is really important. I used to think that when my baby would skip nap time, I would be like, oh, perfect, he's gonna sleep amazing at night because he's gonna be so tired. No, not the case at all. They get overtired and they get cranky, and when they're overtired and cranky, they do not sleep well at all. I mean, sometimes my baby would sleep well, but most of the time he wouldn't if he did skip a nap. And as your baby grows, there's going to be different nap times. So Jayden has had so many different nap times, so you just kind of go with the flow. And as they grow, they don't need as many naps. Like I remember at some point, I think it was around the 7-month mark, he would need to nap, or 6 or 7-month mark, he would need to nap about every 2 hours, every 2.5 hours. And I stuck to that, and he slept really well. As he grew, he didn't need as many naps, and now he's a year and 3 months, and he only does 2 naps a day. One thing I did forget to mention for nap time, if your baby is a newborn or like in that infant stage, they usually, the longest stretch that they will sleep is a 5-hour stretch. So if they do go down for a nap, even if you have to wake them up, which I know a lot of people don't like to do, don't let them sleep past 2.5, 3 hours. I would highly recommend waking them up at that point, because then they're just gonna keep waking up because they already slept that long stretch, and they're gonna wake up every 2 hours after that. So I would usually let them sleep that long stretch during night when I'm asleep, because they're basically sleeping through the night at that point. So yeah, I would recommend just, and like I said, I probably sound crazy to some people, but wake them up if they do sleep like more than 2.5 to 3 hours. So my other tip would be to, at nighttime, wind down. So if you have other kids that are running around the house at like 7 o'clock at night, I would just recommend telling them like, hey, we're gonna be kind of quiet now, and dim the lights, and just make sure everything isn't so bright and exciting for your new baby, So what worked for me and my husband, at around 6:30 I would start to dim the lights, and I wouldn't like really play with him like how I do in the daytime, and that way he just starts to know like, hey, it's not playtime anymore, it's kind of getting quiet, he kind of gets sleepy. So I would definitely recommend that, because if everything is like bright and exciting and there's people everywhere and you're playing games with him, he's not gonna want to go to sleep. He's gonna be so confused when you're like, hey, all right, it's bedtime. So he or she, I'm sorry. So I would definitely recommend winding down, starting at an early time. 6:30 just worked for me and my family. And then my other tip would be to, when you're putting him to bed, just have that bedtime routine. So you already have your scheduled daytime and nighttime routine, but now I'm talking about bedtime routines. You're not gonna wanna have the TV on blast, like, or have like a bright light on in the room. So I would just leave the TV on, put it on very low, and I would change his diaper right before bed, and I would put lotion on him, and I would rub lotion all over his body, and I would sing him lullabies. And that way, like, it's really soothing, and you're calming your baby down, and you're making them more sleepy. And plus the massage is like, can you imagine when you get a massage, you're pretty sleepy afterwards. So that's exactly how your baby's gonna feel. And then definitely a diaper change right before bed, because if you don't, they're gonna be uncomfortable and they're gonna wake up. If your baby is small enough or at a certain age where you can still swaddle, I would definitely recommend swaddling. Swaddling has helped me so much, because when he was about 3 months old, I was using the swaddles where it was like the manual ones, I guess you would call it. I would do it myself, and I would put him in his bassinet right next to my bed, and in the middle of the night he would wiggle his way out of the swaddle, and he'd wake himself up, and then I would freak out when he woke up, because I was so scared that the swaddle would like cover his mouth or something like that, or he would like roll over, and yeah, it freaked me out. So I would recommend, I would use the Halo sleep sack. Once I switched to the Halo sleep sack, it was a game changer. My son wasn't able to bust out of his swaddle. It was comfortable for him, and he slept longer. Like, that is one thing I definitely recommend. It is a little pricey. I think it's around $24, but it's totally worth it compared to other swaddles, because they're just not able to bust out of it as easy, and you can put yourself at ease just knowing that your baby isn't going to bust out of a swaddle and it could potentially cover his mouth, or he roll over, or just something bad happening. So I would definitely recommend a swaddle, the Halo sleep sack especially. And then another tip would be to having like a background noise. I sleep better that way, and once I added one with my son, he slept better too. So could you imagine it be just complete silence and anything in the house like could wake your baby up? And it was stressful. So I got this little tiny fan and I put it in his room, and it's worked since. I don't point it directly at him unless it is warmer. I'll point it the other way, but I'll put it on the lowest setting, and he sleeps really well with it. And he even knows now when we go into his room and I turn on the fan, like if it's nap time or like bedtime, like if I'm holding him, he'll like just put his head on my shoulder, and he'll just know. It's the cutest thing ever too. And then once they do get to the 6-month point where they can sleep in their own room, I would definitely recommend it, honestly, because with my son, I did breastfeed him, and sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, he did co-sleep with us sometimes, but most of the time he would sleep in his bassinet. Other nights were harder and he would have to co-sleep with us, but I noticed after that he wanted to co-sleep more, but we were waking him up more. Like my husband would snore, I would like kind of toss and turn, and he just was not getting a good night rest. And other nights when he was sleeping in his playpen next to us, he would still not get a lot of rest because I think he could smell us, and he just knew we were in the room, and he knew mommy was here, and it would just wake him up. And him being in the room with us when he was that age too, like any little sound, I would wake up, and even if he was asleep, if he rolled or something like that, I would wake up and my sleep would be really thrown off too. Once I got him into his crib, it was a complete game changer. After that, he started sleeping 11, 12 hours a night, and that is still going on to this day, and I am so thankful for that, and I'm so thankful that I have gotten my routine down to a T. And once I did transition him into his own crib, he did, like, mind you, he did wake up like the first 2 nights, like 2 or 3 nights, he woke up at like 3 in the morning, and and the first night I brought him in and I breastfed him, I gave in, I let him co-sleep with us, and I was like, you know what, I cannot do this, I have to stick with it. The next night he woke up and he cried for about 5 minutes, and he went back to sleep after that, and he probably did that again the night after that, and he went back to sleep. After that, sleeping 11, 12 hours every single night. And also know that you're gonna want to put your baby down when they're awake eventually, and the first time you do it, they probably are gonna cry. It's going to be okay though. I think the first time I did it, my son cried for about 10 minutes, maybe even less than that, and he went right to sleep. Make sure the room is dark though, because if there is any light, they're gonna be like, what the heck is going on? You know, if it's pitch black dark, they're just gonna go right to sleep, and I promise you that. So those are the tips that I definitely recommend, and just be patient with the like bassinet, playpen, crib transitions, because it does take time. Not all babies are gonna be like get right to it, like fall asleep right away. Just have patience. I promise you it will be worth it in the end. Like I said, my baby is still sleeping 11 to 12 hours a night, and it really just makes you feel like a normal person again at night. And I'm just one of those crazy people, if I don't get enough rest at night, like I cannot function during the day. I hope this does help you guys if you are searching to start sleep training your baby. It's been really successful for me, and a few of my friends have tried it as well, and it has been successful for them too. So I hope that I have helped you out in some way. If I have, please go ahead and comment below. I'd love to hear you guys' stories. If you do like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because I will be sharing more mommy tips, beauty tips, fitness tips, all that good stuff. So I hope you guys have an amazing day, and good luck if you are going to start the sleep training process. Mwah.